baby. I'm gonna grab my laptop real quick.
You sexy thing.
I'll go get my counsel. Things recorded.
Yes, it is recording. I didn't realize you had already started.
Well, I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah. Find the land use meetings. I already have that pulled up. Who sent it to me? Troutman? That is such a good, should have won me. Oh, she choose that.
Council? Council?
I'm not
I'm
counsel.
Council.
I'm figuratively standing up.
Pleasure to meet you.
Mentally.
You may want to have one of your, the members of your firm read that. Otherwise, we can, unless things don't go well today, we can have a talk about a defamation lawsuit for the actions that they took at the conference.
You want us to walk away?
To be honest, we don't know how much of a case you all have, so we need to have a bit of a conversation about the.
I understand that, but first of all, coming in here with that is no way to start a negotiation.
Pointing to the
Okay.
camera. This is a professional responsibility book.
And I'm just gonna say that. So just off the bat, before you get into anything like that, let's cut the crap on that, because we're not here to pull stunts. So you can go ahead and continue if you have something that you want to talk about that isn't a little bit of grandstanding here.
Sure, and I don't know how much grandstanding that would be, considering it was in the middle of a conference, in the middle of a pitch with a local company. So, my question for you all is, what do you all believe happened here? Because from my understanding of the facts, there should be no conceivable reason that our product caused whatever kind of damage happened within those trucks.
Our two theories, we have one main theory of this case as well as a secondary theory based on what we've understood is happening here. Our first understanding is that you all produce this product from recycled petroleum material. The antifreeze product, that this coolant product that you all sent to us in this barrel, we believe was contaminated with oil, which caused, because of the weak nature of this, or first of all, the fact that it was contaminated with oil at the high temperatures going on in the motor because of this weaker mixture of antifreeze in this product. This is not a strong product as it was, this was not a standard product as advertised. It was a weaker mixture of antifreeze that your own tests came back with. It was either one, contaminated with oil from your all's manufacturing process, which caused the corrosion of this, the rubber and material inside of this thing that caused these engines to collapse. So either you had a contaminated product is our first theory. And we recognize now, as far as the test results that you all came back with, we have no way of verifying whether or not the test results that this particular sample that you all sent off to the lab actually came from the product that went into these engines from the same, barrels that went into this one, or was this some other type of antifreeze material that you all had in the shop? We don't know that. Even if it is the case, however, that is an accurate representation of the material that you all have. Even if that, what I'm saying is, even if we were to take you all at your word, which we don't necessarily do, that this was an actual sample from the particular antifreeze that went into these vehicles. The problem is that this antifreeze does not meet the industry standards, and it does not meet the as advertised standards for coolant mixture that this was sold under, as your own tests show that this was a weak mixture. This was not a standard mixture. It was described as a weak mixture. So the alternative theory is that because this was a failing and deficient antifreeze coolant product, it caused our engines to overheat, failing the basic function that it was meant to do. At which point, when the engine started overheating, they started leaking oil, which caused the corrosion in the pipes, which caused these to go out. So at a base minimum, either you had an instance of this antifreeze was contaminated with oil from your all's manufacturing process, or, which we do not concede because it's a factual question, which we will be disputing at trial, If it is the case that that sample is not a representative sample of what went into these materials, that it still caused the damage to these vehicles because of its failure to prevent overheating in the engines, which caused oil leaks, which caused these corrosions. Which the reason we put the antifreeze into the engine is to keep it cool. It failed its basic function, which caused the engine to malfunction, which caused this to go down here. So that's the case that we're going to be telling to the jury, and we feel that that's a very compelling one, given the fact that there's a very clear connection between these engines malfunctioning and your product being put into it. Your antifreeze product being put into it.
So my confusion comes from the fact that, let's start with the first assertion, like the first theory. I think we can both agree that, or maybe not agree, but taking our actions in good faith, which we would want to do, we had a great relationship with you all, I assume, before, to this point. Like commercially, we were fulfilling each other's needs. I don't know any reason why we would need to pull the wool over your eyes with this and send a false sample off. I want to kind of put that out of the way. We didn't.
I'm not saying that it has to do with your character as people. I'm not viewing it through that lens of it. But when you have a potentially $500,000 settlement against a potential $500,000 case against a local family-run business, you know, circumstances arise where there is a little bit of incentive to do that. And that's not judgment upon the person, because that's ordinary course of, you know, when you get into a fight, things happen. So it's not a character, it's not a statement of character as much as it is just a statement of circumstance that we recognize that that's a possibility.
Sure, and you're welcome to have such thoughts as it is.
And it could have been a mistake, and it could have been
If you could
a
stop
mistaken
talking over
sample.
me, sir, I'm trying to get out my point. My question, I have a really big question for you all. Who administered the antifreeze? Do you have that individual's name? How long they've been with your company? This is just a basic question, I feel like.
Our mechanics who work on a fleet of 70 trucks, rebuilding them every 100,000 miles on their engines. So people that are very competent in the world of rebuilding engines and applying the proper coolants, lubricants, general maintenance on vehicles. We're very confident in our fleet maintenance staff that does this. I can't give you any of their names because it's not in the material. But as far as their competence, we are very confident in the work that they have accomplished over the past decades of work on the job. Hundreds of vehicles across decades of work.
Sure, and people come in new and old all the time. People are always getting trained. That's just kind of how it works in businesses like that.
I wouldn't say that it's a constant rate of turnover. No, we didn't say that. We said that we have a very competent group of individuals who work at that, and we are very confident in their work. We're not going to frame this as we have a lot of turnover inside the department. We have highly competent people there that work, that have been there for, as far as we know, they've been there for a while.
No.
Okay.
Good. Well, let's just put that aside for the sake of the hypothetical. Then our perspective of this is that neither formulation could have done the damage unless there was oil within there whenever it was applied, because like we sent off the formulation, it had no oil in it, as far as the test went. So do we want to you said you want to keep this first theory for trial, but why don't we step away from that, because we can both agree that's more of a factual question.
Our position is this: we are not conceding the point that this was not contaminated material, because we believe that there is at least some evidence to suggest that that's possible. If it is the case that that's not, that assumption is wrong, okay, which we're willing to contemplate. If that is the case, then our second theory still holds to the fact that it was the defection of this product which caused the damage.
Sure, and you're welcome to of course, have that theory, but we, of course, obviously disagree with that
And,
sort of
and,
assumption.
and well, it's not an assumption, it's a logical deduction, which is that if you have an engine that has an oil problem, that oil problem is only gonna cause the corrosion of the fittings and fixtures at high temperatures. And the only reason that it's gonna get to a high temperature is if the coolant is not functioning at the standard at which it's advertised and that are industry standards, which this mixture was not. So even if it was the case that the engine had a leaking oil problem, the bigger issue is the fact that we address that problem by buying your product to keep the engines cool so that that's not a problem, because all engines have some degree of oil leak. And that's why you apply antifreeze to make sure that issues like corrosion don't happen. And so even if it is that you're trying to spin it here, which we don't even concede that they were leaking oil. We're saying that if the antifreeze wasn't doing its job, it could have caused engine damage, which caused the oil leak, which caused the corrosion.
Do you
So
all have
either-
an expert that could stipulate to that?
I am going to say yes, because I think that mechanically I'm not wrong in that, but I'm willing to be proven wrong, and it's not in the material, but I am very confident that that is a logical mechanical thing to which a mechanic would apply. Yeah, and so we also, I mean, we have a, so the other problem that we have here, okay, so I will say this. Yeah, so the little piece of information that has been dropped to me by a birdie, and I shouldn't be looking at John Krasinski style camera.
I've been looking at it like that.
This particular product that you all shipped to us, which was this blue, the blue antifreeze, which you all conceived was blue, correct? It was a blue.
Aiden does not know which color, which is
Okay,
which, but
it was
we
a
always
blue
concede
versus
that-
green antifreeze. It
Yeah.
was a blue antifreeze that you all sent to us. That
The
blue
original was blue.
Okay, which is designed for smaller engines, not for this type of engine. So if it's the case that you all sent us the wrong type of antifreeze, which is the theory that I'm posting, that you all have, it's in material.
That one
So,
wasn't a question.
so you all sent,
Yeah.
you all sent over a type of antifreeze in this
Sure.
situation that's not designed for this particular type of engine, which either one, as we say, which I'm stating there's two theories. Either one, that if the engine was leaking oil, that the coolant that this was supposed to do is to keep the engine cool so that the oil doesn't become corrosive, or B, the deficiency of this type of this type of antifreeze in the engine caused the oil leak, which caused the corrosion. Because it also didn't have the capacity, even if it caused it. So we're willing, we would have someone, we're prepared to take that argument to a jury, because we believe that it holds, that there is a factual element. We believe that it has facts to back that up.
Sure, and you,
Especially in light of the fact that that based on the color which you all concede, this was not the type of antifreeze which was needed for the trucks that we operate and that we ordered. It wasn't what we ordered.
sure, and we've had a conversation going here for quite some time, but we are here for one main reason, and that is to come to an agreement if we can. Could you all go ahead and toss a number our way just so we can kind of get where your head's at?
Off the top, we're looking at we're willing to come down to about $500,000, $500,000 cash.
I don't know if that's coming down necessarily.
It's down from 565. It's a
Sure.
little over, it's about an 8 to 10% reduction roughly.
Or, to keep together.
That's over a 10% reduction.
All right, and I appreciate that offer, and I appreciate you willing to come down some degree, but I do have a question before I give my counter. How many of these trucks were actually materially harmed by the antifreeze, as you would allege?
We have there were 21 trucks that had engine malfunctions. And we have another 49 trucks which were administered the antifreeze, which has reduced the value of those.
Another 29 trucks or another 49 trucks?
So there's been 21 trucks that have had to have the engines rebuilt because they have broken down. There's been 21 trucks that have broken down that we've had to fix. There are another 49 trucks, the value of which has been reduced because of, they haven't broken yet, but their value has been reduced if we were to sell them because of the damage done to them.
So
understand what I'm saying?
are you all stating that trucks that have not, I just want to make sure we're clear. You all are stating that trucks that have no tangible damage at this very date are
We're stating
in
that,
the calculation for damages?
we're stating that those trucks have been damaged. They have not suffered catastrophic damage, but they have suffered damage. So the difference would be that those 21 trucks have had damage to the extent that it's going to take $10,000 roughly to repair them back to working order. The other 49 trucks have not completely fallen apart, but they have had damage in the range of about $5,000. So they've had about $5,000 worth of damage. They're worth $5,000 less because of the damage that has accrued inside of that truck, but which has not yet caused the truck to actually go kaput. So there is damages. There is damages. Okay. The fact that it has not completely collapsed yet does not mean that there is not damage to the truck. It's just the damage has not progressed to the point that it's caused the truck to become inoperable.
Sure, and I do have just a quick question for you. Do you know if your client ever makes a habit of selling their trucks within their lifetime of use?
The fact that the truck has suffered damages is not relevant to whether or not the
I do think
the asset value is what the problem here is. So if they chose to sell the truck later on, it would be worth less today because of the damage suffered to that. When they put it on their accounting sheet, what these vehicles are worth for their financial purposes, those vehicles are worth $5,000 less because of that damage. So the fact that whether this client sells them or doesn't sell them is irrelevant to the damages that they've suffered because of.
I think it is because this kind of brings in an idea of expectation. And if your client has it on the sheet that this is a standard practice that they expect to sell these trucks, then sure. But if I'm to follow an assumption that I was given that Waltham likes to run their trucks into the ground, that theory of possibly losing value on a later sale doesn't really hold quite as much water as you may want. And can I just, before we get any further, I feel like it's only fair to come back with a number, and I think we're a little far off from where we need to finish here. So I'm gonna come back with an offer of $10,000 just because I feel like we're in different planets of, I don't want to say reality, but different planets of thought. So I'm sorry, but I don't think $500,000 is an appropriate number for this case.
If you think $10,000, you're equal to living in La La Land.
Sure.
So we're willing to negotiate, but $10,000, we are much closer to reality than $10,000.
I would argue that you aren't, but we're not here to argue. We're here to kind of mediate and come to an agreement. So can you explain to me why $500,000, every single dollar of that is necessary with the damages that are apparent at this time? Can you explain to me how $500,000 covers all the actual damages that are here in this case?
We have damages totaling $210,000 from the engines that have went kaput. We have $245,000 of asset depreciation and damage to those vehicles, which is a real cost to this business because, as stated before, irregardless of whether or not it is company policy that these vehicles are sold regularly, rebuilt, the fact of the matter is when we go in and we seek financing and we get liens put on these trucks, we're putting the fair market value of that truck on our loan documents, and that impacts our ability to operate as a business. And if we have trucks that are worth $5,000 less because of the damage that they have suffered, that is a material damage to our company, to my client's company.
Sure.
So that is where the $245,000 comes in. The $100,000 comes in on the fact that this has been an ongoing case for 2 years, and you're looking at $110,000 of interest at 12%. Now, we initially came in and said $10,000, which was a 10%, $500,000 even, which is a reduction to that number,
Sure.
which is over 10% reduction, which we did in good faith, noting the reality that this is an argumentative case. So at a bare minimum, I'm not meaning, this is not, I shouldn't say that it's at a bare minimum. What I'm stating here is that the idea that somehow this is a $10,000 case is ludicrous. Because
Sure.
even if you were just to opine and take out the interest owed, and you just made this a straight damages case, this is still a $455,000 case.
And it's,
So, you know, again, we're willing to negotiate on this. We're willing to come to a number on this, but you're gonna have to come in on a number that's well above $10,000 cash.
sure. And I think you all need to kind of come back down to reality. I'm gonna go off what is. Sure. So, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So just a question for you all. How long was it going to be until these trucks had their next tear down? I think you said 100,000 miles is typically when they do that. How close were we in the life of these trucks, when these issues started occurring?
We do not have that information.
We do not have access to that information.
Okay, because I feel like that may affect the value. Like, let's say, the total overhaul costs $206,000. If we were halfway there to needing the next overhaul anyway, that would lower the amount of what would actually be necessary to the number, say, $103,000. And that would already be inflated because we don't necessarily, at least we would believe that these issues were not caused by our product. But let's step away from that for just one more moment and let's come back to reality a little bit. You all do not have an expert at this very moment that you know of that can state to this theory that our product caused overheating in your engine and led to damages within these engines just because it was a different antifreeze. You can have that theory. I think it's a perfectly fine logical thought. But I don't think that there's going to be, if you all don't have one at this point that can commit to that theory, I don't know if it helps your case very much. We, on the other hand, have experts.
We have an expert that says that the real cause is probably oil that was mixed up in the Foster antifreeze. So we have an expert.
But not an expert for that second theory, correct?
We have a mechanical expert that talks about engine damage and the effects of antifreeze deficiency on defective.
You have an
defects.
expert that
We have
can
an
speak to the oil mixing with the engine.
We have a mechanical expert that can speak to the defects in antifreeze, including oil contamination. We're not gonna, if you're gonna sit here and split hairs over the
Splitting
qualifications,
hairs.
if you're gonna sit here and
I'm not
split hairs
demeaning the
over,
qualification, or sorry, let me let you finish. That's my fault. I shouldn't be speaking over.
they're splitting, if you're gonna, we're not here to split hairs over the fact that the expert he's qualified to talk about the inner workings of antifreeze and whether or not they can be contaminated with oil. No, that's nonsensical. This expert is able to talk about the effects of antifreeze on the performance of an engine, to include if that antifreeze was weak, which caused the engine to not be properly cooled, which either caused damage in the engine that was already there or to be exacerbated, or caused damages from the start and led to the engines to fail later.
So I think you misinterpreted my comment. I wasn't attacking your expert's qualifications. I was more so kind of getting at, did you bring this theory before your expert yet to state whether or not he can rule on this or can make an opinion on this? Because from my interpretation, he's only opined thus far that if oil got in the antifreeze, it would have caused these issues. But that doesn't necessarily sound like he's prepared, at least at this very moment, to opine to that second theory that you all are bringing.
The expert has opined that oil mixed into the antifreeze could have caused this problem. The expert is prepared to offer theories as to how that oil got into the antifreeze.
But to date, and I just wanna, so we're all on the same page. To date, he has not offered any opinions other than that if oil were to mix with this antifreeze, he can offer theories, of course, at trial for why these kinds of things have happened, but he has not offered to date other than if oil mixed with the antifreeze that it would cause these issues, that that's all he said. That's the impression I've been given. Is that correct? I just want to make sure we're on the same page as we move forward.
The expert has, the information that is in our material has stated that the expert has said that oil mixed into the antifreeze is what caused the problem. We do not have any statement in here on that because it's just not in the material. But I'm not gonna sit here and take argument that the expert is not going to find that to be a likely theory if I'm to question him about it on the stand.
And I don't want you to.
And I'm limited by what the thing says here, but he has not said that that is not possible.
Sure, he hasn't said that it's not possible, he hasn't said that it is. So, yeah. Yeah, so from our perspective, we have the antifreeze tested. We had the sample of the antifreeze that was in your vehicles tested in the batch that we gave you, and we had no oil coming into it that way. So if we take those tests for what they are, and their tests, if you take them in the light that we would give them, that there was no oil contaminant in the antifreeze, then all you have is an expert that says, if theory 1 is correct, then you have a case. Please let me finish my thought. It's just, at this moment, we don't have a strong argument the other direction. Your theory, of course, is a legal theory and a perfectly valid legal theory, but at the end of the day, it doesn't seem as if you have the proof to back it up at this juncture. So that is why I kind of don't value this case as that high, because as it stands right now, I'm not sure your case is the absolute pillar of strength. And I think we need to come to a more realistic number than 500,000. And I'm willing to concede that 10,000 isn't where we should land, but if you have another number to help move the needle here a little bit, I would really appreciate it if you could just bring it to the table.
The expert, you're mischaracterizing what the expert has stated here. So the expert has also, I shouldn't say mischaracterized, but you are failing to give a full picture as to what this expert is stating to. So we know for a fact that this was, as you all stipulated, that this was a blue antifreeze that came to our product. And I want to get into the money because that's what we're here, but I'm stating this, you don't need to be sitting here belaboring under the idea that the way in which you're framing this argument means that this is a weak case, because you're ignoring certain facts and pumping up other ones. Our expert has corroborated the fact that this was a weaker mixture of antifreeze elements, which is consistent with the fact that this was the blue antifreeze, which is not designed for the engines that we bought them for, compared to the green one, which it was supposed to be that we purchased. So even if it is the case, so the sheer fact of it remains that we either have that your samples did in fact have contaminated antifreeze, at least in the samples that went into the vehicles, because you're also not testing the samples. As far as we're aware, the samples is not the ones that actually went into the vehicle, but I don't want to quibble on that. Let's just, we're not conceding that point, but let's just sit it over here for a moment.
Let's set it.
If it is the case that there was not contaminated oil in that, then this was clearly either a defective product because it's a weak mixture. That's what our experts willing to testify, that this was a weak mixture of antifreeze product, which means that either theory 2A, that it did not perform the work that it did if there was already oil leaking into the engine, or 2B, which was that its failure to keep it cool caused a ultimate failure of the engine. Or we just get down to theory C, which is the fact that we purchased a type of antifreeze that you all screwed up and sent the wrong type to us. which caused all these damages.
Sure.
Which you yourself have conceded that this was not the type of antifreeze that it runs on the type of engines that we run.
Sure.
So we're willing to come down from the $500,000 number, but we're still looking at a six-figure settlement. And I think that you need to come, and I think that you need to concede that there's a six figure settlement going on here. And I think that there's also non-monetary concerns that we're willing to come in here that you all might be looking for, that, you know, we're willing to get to.
Sure.
So this is what we are willing to do. This is what,
Before you give that, can you reach in the backpack and get Steven a pen so he doesn't have to write this in highlighter?
I can throw you mine.
No, I'm fine.
so our counter offer would be this. We want $150,000, we're looking for $150,000 in cash. Okay. Plus $150,000 in at cost fuel. Which means.
Sure.
So when you all go to your gas pump and you pick up that fuel, the price that you pay at your pump, you all cover the shipping, that you then deliver $150,000 worth of gasoline to us at cost.
And that's including like shipping costs, overhead, moving it for you.
We want whatever the amount of gasoline that $150,000 buys.
For us to have no net profit.
No
On
net
moving.
profit on nothing. You all just go pick up $150,000 and deliver it to us at for $150,000.
So the reason I asked about overhead and net profit there is because those are two different numbers, $150,000 purchase price for getting the fuel, that's one thing, but that's different than the actual cost of moving it, putting it in trucks, moving it again, and bringing it to you all. At $150,000 at the cost, including shipping and overhead, is different than $150,000 at asking for fuel from the Saudis, Texas Oil, whatever it is. So that I would like you to specifically pick one of those numbers where we have no net profit, or where you all are not included, or where we are not including shipping, handling, and overhead. We're more amiable to one of those numbers.
You're saying that you want.
Yeah.
What I'm trying, so I'm understanding it, is that there's either 100, that you're saying that you want me to clarify if I'm wanting 150.
$150,000, so let's.
Plus the transport.
Plus
The
transport and overhead.
transport and overhead are included in that 150,000
Yes.
number, or they are not.
That's my question, because those are two different numbers, they vary quite a bit.
Does not.
I know,
Okay.
I know.
So as your client,
Uh,
I say, cut to the chase.
We want $150,000 without the overhead. And we're willing to issue, and I will sweeten it, I will sweeten the deal by stating that we will issue an apology to you personally. And we will advertise to the street the fact that whatever the issue was with this antifreeze, it was not an issue with you all. It was a misunderstanding that ultimately does not reflect on your all's professionalism and ability to provide quality products.
I really appreciate you coming in with a creative offer. I like the apology aspect of it very particularly. I think that's a very nice thing to throw in there. And I really appreciate the number that you came up with, 300,000. That's quite a big jump. And I think we'd be willing to make a similarly proportional jump, but I do have one question for you. In the 2 years since all of this has happened, have any of those 49 other trucks had issues? Have they had the same issue that the other trucks have had? In particular, are you knowledgeable on that subject?
we're not knowledgeable on that subject, but we're also gonna sit here and tell you that we have come down over, we are telling you that we have come down over 2/3 of this. So any type of argument that's gonna be made in that one, we have more than come down to solve.
Should
any
you
type of
confer
product
with your
like
client
that.
for a moment?
I understand.
If you need a moment with your client,
No,
to
we're
kind
good.
of-
No, we're good.
all right.
I've shown them what I wanted to show them.
Well, I appreciate, again, I really appreciate you coming up with a creative offer and coming down proportionally that much. And I think it's fair to give you a similar shift in focus of where we think this needs to land. So you came down $200,000. That was,
I want to add one other thing to this, is that I'm
sir,
implicit, no, it's for you all, it's your benefit. I should have articulated this, but I assumed that it was implicit when I made it, is that as part of that gas deal, we're going to continue to operate. We want to continue the business relationship that exists so that you all keep us as a customer.
Sure.
I just wanted to
I appreciate you adding like another beneficial term to this agreement, but I do think our numbers are still in a little bit of a different stratosphere, or thoughts at the very least. You came down 2/5 a year of your deal, so we'll kind of come up with a similar number. What, you're at $300,000, we will come up to $35,000, and I still think that you're kind of, you can hum and haw about this as much as you want, but I think we still don't have quite the same mindset of this situation. And I'd like to just try and get us to the same point a little bit. As we discussed, you don't have any knowledge of if any of these 49 other trucks have had tangible issues in the last 2 years since this litigation has started.
I'm just gonna cut through the crap on this one. Our best, last, and final offer is. What's that number? What is that number?
Which one are you wanting?
No, okay. Our best, last, and final offer is 110,000 with the $150,000 of gas at cost, and we'll do the other, when we'll add the other frills to that, but that's best, last, and final.
Zero in there. Yeah, I know. Okay, let me step away with my client and get his opinion on this, whether or not he'd like to take that. I appreciate you coming down another $40,000 in your cash offer, as well as adding those other stipulations, but let me just step away with my client for just a minute and confer with him.
Shut the door.
When he comes back, I want to play game day and tell him that we've thought about it, and
No, what, don't pull a game day, please.
I'm not.
I know you want to, please
Uh-uh.
don't. It'd be entertaining.
I'm
But
sorry, that deal's no longer available. We live in a different world than we did 3 minutes ago. $35,000.
that is ridiculous. I would think at least 100,000, but
I'm gonna tell him that we'll do that, but we're not.
in
gonna
my
cut it
opinion,
straight
you
up.
should have also asked him, he said one of the two options was more amendable to them. I felt like you should have asked which one they would prefer to get more conversation versus an adversarial concept.
I could have, but when Steven looked at him and was like, I don't know what's going on here, it means that he was just bullshitting. So he didn't know anything. He hadn't discussed that with Steven beforehand. He wasn't more amenable. to one
Well,
of the other.
yeah, that's because I didn't know what the hell you were talking about until you explained it, and even then, I'm not really
How much-
sure.
You wanted 260.
Total ideal number when I crunched the number was 260, because that would cover
Yeah.
the interest, the 21 trucks, and they're not coming in here, I still
Oh.
hear it muffled. I'm just a very loud person, and then attorney's fees.
Cat hair
Okay,
or something.
I'm
here.
surprised, yeah, it's long enough, it's cat hair. Oh yes, put it on the person who has allergic to cats and stuff.
Oh, Steven's
Um,
allergic to cats.
yeah, He's very allergic. He's also allergic to dogs, but less so.
Yes.
Yes, considering I have the high shedders. I'm actually surprised they've been good. Usually Rogue's jumping on the tables and Scarlet's barking and stuff, but. What time is it? Alright, we still have time.
No, I should, no, what I mean is I should have went to your number, I should have got your premium on that after.
So I know you said that was your last best and final offer, and I appreciate you wanting to stick to your guns on this, but if we were to make one more concession, on the terms of this agreement, would you be willing to come down? If we were to say that you do not need to stipulate that we stay in an exclusive deal after this situation, you do not need to stay with us as a customer. Would you be willing to take your number down from 110? You can go out, shop the market, find a better deal on whatever else you may need.
You're stating what now?
We would remove the term that you all remain as a customer of our business, of my client's business. For you all to come down in your cash asking price.
So you want us to give up something that helps you all in exchange for us getting less money?
I wouldn't say that it helps us. What I would say is that it ends at this point, contentious relationship, and the apology is very appreciated. The value that you've come to with the agreement with the fuel, I really appreciate you wanting to make something creative with this, but at the same time, we're very close to a number that we can agree on, and I think we're just a hair high.
We're gonna go talk about it.
They're talking about it.
They're talking about Hayes.
They're gonna try and figure out the math. of how this works.
My daddy does not
All
want
right,
to
let
work
me
with them
putting
anymore.
this over
Yeah.
there. It's just mine.
My daddy doesn't want to work with them anymore.
I know, and I'm trying to fix it.
He is very slighted.
I'm trying to figure out the numbers of there. So we make 20 cents, but after overhead, but we'd have to cover overhead, so it'd be 20 cents per gallon for 20 cents for 15,000 gallons. A month.
That Matt's mathing right
Well,
now.
let's just do a year's worth. So 15,000 by 12 by 0.2. So we're within the right range, I think. They come back with something lower, you may want.
Yeah, I know. If it's below if they go, I guess what would that be?
If they go down at least 10,
Yeah,
would that be acceptable?
I think so. If they went to like 100, I think that'd be fine.
Okay.
But the apology, still keeping the apology.
Still keeping the apology.
Yeah. Still. I just want to write this down. So I want to say it's a 100 plus the 150.
Okay, and fuel at cost.
Fuel at cost. Apology.
Yeah.
My father does not like them anymore.
My father. is a drinker. 190 came.
My father's the Joker now. What about reprimanding? What about reprimanding the one
I'm the
what
Joker,
attorney in there?
I think we need to take what we can get, and I think this is
Yeah.
I think this is a fair deal, because if they're publicly apologizing,
Yeah.
that's very different.
I still think we win at trial.
I mean, I think we do, but I think this is.
I think their experts only giving us theories.
Yeah, and there's no tangible thing, but there is always a jury.
We had the.
There's
badge.
always a
I know,
jury.
I know. We had the badge,
I agree with you. They're still gonna have.
but
to
you're
have
paid to agree with me.
yes, but I'm not paid to agree with you. I'm paid to get the job done. And I think unless they can go, I don't know when expert disclosures were due. I don't know if we're past the pale on that. So if I had that fact, maybe I would be more willing.
We're talking
to-
directly to you right now.
Yeah. I'd be more willing to push a little bit harder on that and come down a little bit more maybe, but this gets the job done for very similar to stepping away another assignment that we did. I think this gets the job done for very similar. But
Now we just sit here in silence until they come, make this really awkward.
check my email. Cause you know,
You're a busy man.
I'm a busy man. I'm out of house counsel. That means I've got at least 6 cases going on right now in similar mediations, of course.
Of course, yeah, of course I know.
I've got at least 2 depots.
Oh, yeah, do you?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm prepared.
You have to go all the way to Indiana to do those?
Oh, I gotta go to Gary.
Oh, yeah, gotta go to Gary.
Gotta go to Gary.
All the way from here. That's how long of a drive is that?
Gary probably like 2 hours, 3 hours.
2 hours to get, Gary's at the top of Indiana.
What is that?
It's 3 hours to
3 hours
Indianapolis.
It's not 3 hours to Indianapolis.
Yeah, it is.
No way.
It's 5 hours to Gary.
5 hours to Gary. Is it?
Gary's next to Chicago.
Is it 3 hours to Indianapolis?
Yeah.
From here? What do you mean? Yeah.
Not Indianapolis. What is that place?
We're gonna investigate that later.
Yeah, it's 3 hours in Indianapolis.
Well, I guess I normally. Oh, well, we're going to Louisville first, and that's where I come.
Well, that's the
I'm
fastest way. Yeah, because it's an hour to
I'm
Louisville.
a dumb stupid head because
Yeah.
it's an hour to Louisville.
You gotta either go on 65 or 75 and then, or 64 and then up 65 and then of course up 75 and up 74.
I know this is riveting.
I know. But Gary's right next to Chicago.
Hmm. Let's talk about good things. The Chiefs lost this week.
And I love that. Did my boy Brock Purdy lose? I forget.
I don't know if Brockathan lost.
I don't know.
He did hurt his shoulder.
We love to hear that.
No, we don't. That's a man's livelihood.
I don't like the 49ers.
You're allowed to not like them, but you can. I wouldn't wish harm on somebody.
You're right. I only wish harm on Deshaun Watson.
Yes, yeah. So I morally disagree, but
I'm from Philly.
Aiden
I wish
Aiden
harm
the-
on everyone.
Aiden the human agrees that if there was somebody to wish harm on in the NFL, he would.
Okay, they did lose to the Seahawks. That's what it was. Yeah.
Who was the Seahawks QB? Is it still? Geno?
It's still Gino.
Still Geno.
Cat's back.
They are having a.
They're having a
this in
big
there.
talk in there.
If there was real wiggle room, I think it would have happened by now. So the longer they're in there, I think it's a worse look for us, because that means Becca's arguing in favor of this, and
Yeah.
Jacob's arguing against, and Becca's the client.
Oh,
You disappeared forever.
What'd you do? Touch my paper?
I showed Hayes, I was moving it over there while I was doing my math.
Oh, that's my stuff for land use.
Sweetheart, you're licking my arm.
She does that.
So this is what we've come back with. So clearly you all aren't interested in the. Well, let me just ask, is the gas deal any part of what's
Sure.
making this?
Yeah, it is. It's just, it's the cash it's just a hair high. If you can come down,
So you're talking about so you're just saying that the cash number, I understand. You're all worried about the cash today, but you're not worried about but
it's not, is that part of the deal we're willing to compromise on and go with the number that you came up with for the fuel, and just the cash number for us to make this fall within our window is a little high.
what I'm saying is that, so here's the, so is it possible, so are you in a position to where that you're willing, if we take the cash number down to the cash number that you're at, that value just gets turned into fuel?
I'm of the position that the fuel number is fantastic where it's at, but if the cash number can come down just a hair, we're able to get this done today.
So I'm gonna, yeah, so I think that, I think that, if you can get us to. What about, what if we drop the cash to 100?
Sure.
about 99. No, 100's fine.
We'll have a deal. 100,000 cash, 150,000 fuel. We'll handle the transportation and everything. You all are under no obligation to stay as a client with us.
And a public apology.
And the public apology, of course.
You want the apology?
Yes.
It wasn't our antifreeze that caused your rubber.
Well, it was the antifreeze. It was,
All right,
it was a
let-
mix up.
Client,
No, it-
client, don't let my clients.
We sent the wrong.
My father said.
Keep him out of this, he's not here. Your daddy's a nice guy, you know, he pays my mortgage,
Okay, so we got a deal.
got a deal.
Alright.
Alright, we shake.
Hold
Whatever,
on, I gotta
whatever, yeah, he's
We're
got
putting it in writing,
Putting it in writing.
And we won't change the
Okay.
numbers when we send it to you to sign.
Alright, so 100,000 in cash, 150,000 in fuel, we will cover the overhead and you all pay us the 150.
Whoa.
It's
Whoa.
at cost,
He said it wrong.
at cost.
No. Let me make sure that we're understanding something here. When we're saying that we're saying that it's $150,000 as in you all just bring the fuel to us and we never pay you a dime.
Oh, then we're done. Get up and leave. That's not happening.
Okay, then never.
Yeah,
We'll
get
see
up.
y'all.
Well, impasse.
Impasse.
We were misunderstanding.
I don't know if it was just wasn't articulated correctly, but we're not, this case doesn't have $250,000 in value. I thought that's good right there. man.
I know. I made sure it was front and
He's
center.
gonna get a 45-minute recording of impasse. But we thought we had this done.
We thought we were done. Are we actually done?
All right, I think we're done. He stood
Yeah,
up, I
we're-
said, fuck
we're-
off, we're good.
We're done.
Alright, how do I stop recording?